Hi friends, welcome to the Plain Fun RC channel. I'm your host Saul, and we're continuing our build of the Dornier DO335 by ESM models. We are shifting our focus now to the installation of the ESC, and right now we're working on the ESC for the front motor. And you can see inside where the ESC is located, and I know that's a funky spot to put it, but I'll explain my decision. So we needed a spot where we could put the ESC, where it would get adequate airflow, and you can see we're looking forward now. There's more than enough airflow coming through the front of that plane to cool that ESC. Now, I would like to have gone through and put the ESC here in the hatch area, but the problem is that there just wasn't enough airflow and not enough room for two ESCs. So what we decided was to go ahead, put the front ESC here, like so, and just go ahead, run some extensions coming off the ESC, and we're using anti-spark connectors. I strongly recommend it when you're running anything from a 4S pack and up. You're going to get the sparking, and the sparks that occur are not great. They may look fun, but they actually cause a carbon buildup over time if you don't have some type of anti-spark. So we're running a series connector, Castle Creation series connector. You can see it here. Dean's is more than enough. This motor only draws roughly about 75 amps at the most. So, and it works great. So we've got it set up, and it looks fantastic. Now, we're going to shift our focus now to working on the ESC for the rear motor, and we're going to be going through and using a Castle Creations Talon HV120. Now, one more thing I want to mention to you as well with regards to the ESC in the front. We are going to be using a Castle Creations arm lock right here. And the arm lock prevents the motor from coming to life. Now, we're only using it on the front motor because I'm not concerned about the back motor jumping to life, because I will be up here in the front of the plane installing the batteries away from the rear motor, but I am concerned about the front motor coming to life. So that's why I'm only putting in one arm lock, and that's strictly just for the front motor. So let's go ahead. Let's shift our focus now to getting our arm lock installed on the side of the fuselage, and then we'll go ahead and shift our focus to getting our ESC installed for the rear motor. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see that we have our rear ESC installed. One of the nice things about this plane is that if you look very carefully with regards to where the ESC is installed, that rail system there is where the rear fuel tank would go if we were installing a nitro or gas engine. And those two little open squares there, that's where the servos would go with regards to the throttle and a choke if you were using a gas engine. But they make for a perfect installation for the Talon. We did have to add some plywood pieces there, you can see, to hold the Talon in place, but it just works absolutely perfect. So let's go ahead now. We're going to shift our focus to running a very long extension, probably a little over 4 feet in length, for the battery for the rear ESC. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update on the DO335, let me talk to you about what we're seeing here. This is the lead for the rear motor. Now, this table is 4 feet wide, so you can see that the lead itself is approximately about 4 feet long from end to end. Now, let's talk about what we've got going on. So you can see here we have capacitor packs. Now, capacitor packs are sold by Castle Creations, and we happen to have a couple of them right here. Let me explain the importance of the capacitor packs. So Castle Creations will tell you that when you plan to extend the leads beyond the stock leads that come with the ESC, they recommend adding capacitor packs. So 3 inches from the ESC to the wire, you would add your first one, then every 8 inches after that. And that's what we're doing now. We've got 2 on here. And because this is a 4 foot long piece of wire, or dual piece of wire, excuse me, we have to go through and add some additional capacitor packs. So we're going to be adding one every 8 inches on the extension here. And what that does, that prevents a voltage drop, and it also prevents damage to the ESC. So keep that in mind whenever you're running long leads. 3 inches, and the first one is 3 inches from the ESC, and every one after that is every 8 inches. All right, friends, let's get our capacitor packs soldered. All right, friends, you can see our extension is done. We've gone ahead and we have put on each of the capacitor packs here for the extension, as you can see, and she's all finished. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to get it installed into the Dornier, and then we'll move on to the last little bits and pieces. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, you can see we've gone ahead. We have our extension in place. We also used a pull tie right here to keep it out of the way of the steering servo. We also used a pull tie right up front here, and you can see it right there to also keep it up high and away. And up front, there's also a pull tie here just to the side right over there. You can see it. The reason why we have it that way is we don't want the wires flopping around, and for the front portion, we've got to keep it up and out of the way of the battery compartment to make it easier to install the battery. All right, we're going to shift our focus to getting our nose gear reinstalled, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you're looking at the pull wires for the nose gear. They are attached, and they work just absolutely perfectly. Just fantastic. Very happy with the results there. Really, really good. Now, a couple tips I want to pass along to you. The first of which has to do with the loop itself. So with the loops, the things to keep in mind are you want the loop loose enough so when the landing gear retracts, the wire swings down, and when the landing gear extends, the wire then is able to rotate back. If you make the loop too tight by putting the crimp too close to the steering arm, that could potentially, and this has happened to me, that could potentially go through, and when you retract the gear, take the crimps, put them in a part of the nose gear where you don't want them to be, and then they get stuck and it prevents the gear from coming down, and that's not good. Now, you don't want the loops so loose that they wind up coming around the outer edge here when the landing gear retracts, because what happens is if that loop comes around the outer edges here of the steering arm, and you try to extend that gear, then they will actually get stuck, and it will prevent the nose gear from extending. And I've had that happen as well. So anyway, you can see it's a perfect setup, works great. One more tip is to put the loop on the hole closest to the center. That'll prevent the loop from accidentally coming on the going around the outer portion of the steering arm. So a couple tips to keep in mind, and I'll show you how well it works. Here we go. And you can see as we look right up, let's see, right up here, you can see how the wire is able to curve, or not loop around, but bend in such a way where it's not impacting the landing gear's ability to retract, and also it won't impact the landing gear's ability to extend, as you'll see in a second. And you can see how nice and taut they become when the landing gear is fully extended. So that's perfect. Now, as far as tension, if you've never done pull, you kind of get a feel for it. You want it loose enough to where it's able to move with your finger, but not so loose that when you try to move the nose gear, as you can see here, they move. So this is perfect. This is perfect. All right, and we couldn't ask for anything better. All right, we've got our nose gear done. Very excited with that. A couple more things we're going to finish up, and then we will wrap up with the DO335. Stay tuned, folks. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here on the Dornier, we're going to shift our focus to the Canopy. The Canopy is just fantastic. They really did a beautiful job with the painting. You can see it's a perfect fit. So what we're going to do is, rather than gluing the Canopy in place, you can see we've got 3 lock nuts there, and those lock nuts are actually holding the ESC for the front engine because it's bolted to the bottom of the Canopy. So we're just going to take our Canopy, real simple, and we're just going to go ahead and put a couple screws here, a couple on the side, a couple on the top, just to hold the Canopy in place. All right, let's get our Canopy mounted. All right, friends, you can see our Canopy is mounted, and it just looks fantastic. We have a little tiny crack here in the Canopy. Took a little Canopy glue, put it over top. That'll go from white to clear, so no big deal. Also, I forgot to show you, we did mount the arm lock as well for the front motor. Very simple. You have a key here. You just take it, and when you want to arm the motor, you pull the key out. When you want to disarm the motor, you simply go through and slide the key in. And that's it. That's all there is to it. All right, friends, we're going to go ahead, put our wings on, get our flaps set, and a couple other little small things, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we are still working on the DO335. We had to remove the ESC for the rear motor and send it back to Castle Creations, and I'll show you why. What you're looking at, by the way, is the replacement ESC. So on the ESC, the lead that goes to the actual receiver, look at the lead right there. Let me zoom in nice and tight. Look at how that melted. It got very, very hot in a matter of a few seconds, and that is all I did was just plug in the receiver battery. I did not have a battery connected at all to the ESC, and that I have never seen an ESC do that before ever, and that's the very first time I've ever had that happen on a Castle Creations ESC. So I have to give Castle credit because I notified them, and they were wonderful. Sent back the old ESC, they determined it was defective, and they went ahead and sent me a brand new one. So kudos to Castles. Folks, I know that sometimes we want to gravitate towards lesser expensive ESCs, but I'll tell you, Castle has always been great, going way back to when there were only brushed motors. So invest in Castle. The service is great, and folks, this is not a commercial, and they are always updating their software on all of their ESCs. So definitely take the time to go ahead and do that. All right, let's get our rear ESC installed in our Dornier. All right, friends, we've got our ESC reconnected to the motor, the one that Castle Creations sent us. And as you can see, works perfect. All right, friends, let's go ahead and shift our focus to the other parts of the build. More to come.